Hi, this is ITxB, and today we're going to discuss RCS messaging from Google, how you can install it, what it is, and how it works. You may or may not yet have heard about Google RCS messaging. It has been around for a couple of years. I think they started developing it in like 2007, 2008, somewhere around that. And it's basically a competitor to what you have on the iPhone for, like, I feel like forever, which is the iMessage service. And RCS is basically just rich communication service. So that means it will allow you to use videos and emojis and pictures, and you will get read receipts, you can make groups, and all that kind of good stuff that people over there at Apple have been used to for, basically probably a decade by now. And Google is finally joining the wagon, and that is carrier independent, and that means you can basically install it right now on your Android device and start enjoying and using the full experience. So, in order to do that, you basically just go down there to your messaging app, because that's pre-installed on most of the Android devices anyway. It's the little round blue symbol, which kind of looks like a message on there, hence the Messages app. And you basically just go to settings, and from there you activate the new RCS feature, and that's pretty much it. You're set. And you will be communicating through Google servers now, and you'll be able to basically use all the features that you had in iMessage now on your Android. In order to really understand what RCS is meant for, I think we have to take a little bit of a history tour here. Up to now, people have been using text messages, as they're called colloquially. The true meaning is actually SMS, which is a short messaging service, which basically is just a protocol that has been invented, I think, back in the 80s. And this has really taken off like in the 90s. That was together with the GSM, which was the second iteration of mobile networks that we're now using. And actually, the first short messaging service message that was ever released was on Christmas Day, and it said Merry Christmas in 1992. So I guess it's actually quite topical, because, now it's Christmas Day of 2019, so like almost 30 years later. And we're replacing that short messaging service with the rich communication service RCS. So let's look into how that works. So the beauty of this RCS feature is actually that it's carrier independent. So in the US, there has been a rich history of texting, which is much more than in the rest of the world, because the US has had very low rates on the text that you're sending, which meant that the popularity in the US for any kind of texts was immensely bigger than it was in the EU or the rest of the world for that matter. That's also a good explanation as for why we over here in the European Union use apps like WhatsApp, for example, whereas in the Asian countries, specifically in China, you might use something like WeChat, but you're basically kind of off of the text messages, which is why I think that this is a welcome addition to the messengers that we already use here. The messages will go directly through Google servers, and the carriers don't actually really matter anymore. For the US, that's the same thing. So whether you're on Verizon or Sprint or T-Mobile, carrier independently, you can send messages and you can send media in between users. Unfortunately, only of the apps that support this. So as of right now, as of the time of recording, that would be Google and Samsung, who both have a Messages app out that you can check out and download and use right now in the manner that I explained in the beginning of the video. And this might expand onto other devices as well, because it's hardware agnostic, so it works on any kind of device. That of course means that it could ultimately work on an iPhone as well. That might not actually happen because, Apple being Apple in their own ecosystem might not allow for that, but technically that would mean that finally we can send texts between Android and iOS devices natively, just like in iMessage or now in Messages on any kind of Google device. That might be a little bit off in the future. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I see some challenges here, particularly because of the ecosystem. Now, I started the video off making a little bit of a comparison between Android devices and iOS devices. I'm not trying to start a war here, and I will give you my take on the differences between the two, the use cases for what they're good, and what I think is the better one of them. Spoiler alert, I don't really think there's a better one. I think there's one that's good for each situation. I'm using an Android privately, I'm using an iOS device for work. And well, as I said, I'm not trying to start out a war here. Let me know in the comments what you think are the differences between the two, and if you like which one is the better of the two. But at a later point in time, of course, I will give my opinion to this as well. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it as always, and I hope to see you back next time when we're going to talk about some of the methodology of how to implement IT in businesses. Thank you so much, have a good day, see you around.